Oh, this is my least favorite part of starting these videos. Alright, so I guess one thing I've been really wanting to do is tell you where I got this bike from and how I got it when it only had about 1,200 miles on it. And like me, I really enjoy watching a lot of history shit, and especially car stuff like Vice Grip Garage. I fucking love that channel. The part of the channel I really like is telling the history of where the cars actually came from, and I guess I need to do an oil change, and I guess while I do that, which isn't very exciting, I'd be able to tell you kind of the story on how this bike got here into South Carolina. If you're here to know what you need for an oil change, if you have a 17mm socket, 10W40, I use race bike engine oil or whatever you want to fucking call it, and get in focus, and can't really see it, 303 K&N filter. If that's what you're looking for the Magna, that's how you do an oil change. Figure it out, lift the bike up, take the fucking thing out, and screw the thing back on there. That's all you need. Alright, so I'm gonna switch over to the head cam. I guess I'll start getting into taking the bottom of the bike out. First I gotta lift this thing up, and that's the pain in the ass, because I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so because of the recent shortening of the shocks, and me having to do the oil change, found the dustiest oil pan I could, but now it's too short. Nope, not gonna happen. The exhaust isn't in the way, but the frame is. So, I'm gonna try my best to manually lift the bike. See if that works. We'll see how we are from there.
Hey everyone, so I decided to do a voiceover for this portion of the video. The audio turned out so poorly, I couldn't in good conscience actually upload it. But I'm not really explaining how I'm changing the oil, so it doesn't really matter. But the history of this particular Magna, I'd have to say started back when I got my first project bike. It was a mid-90s red Suzuki Intruder, and it was an absolute piece of crap, but it was a fun learning experience at the most, especially since I had almost no automotive background whatsoever at the time. I didn't do too much to it, but I did fix it just enough to where I could actually ride it down the road safely. I replaced some handlebars, the controls, and some carburetor work because it needed some bigger jets. And I actually got to sell it for a pretty good profit. Turns out after I sold that bike, it was completely wrecked within about a week. But I didn't have any attachment to it, so I didn't really care. I just thought it was funny. Anyways, that kind of gave me the urge to want another project bike, but I also wanted something just a little bit tougher. And I had always thought that the Magna was one of the coolest bikes ever, but I never thought I'd actually be able to get one. I always thought it was kind of like a unicorn bike, but I flagged one on Facebook Marketplace anyways, just to see what would happen. And about what I thought, nothing really appeared for about 2 or 3 months until one did. But the ads seemed a bit off. It looked a little too good to be true. There were only about 3 pictures that were very poorly taken. The bike said it only had 1,240 something miles on it, and it also said the carburetors were missing. So I thought it was a scam or something like that, so I let it be. I had looked at a few more ads that kept popping up, but that one ad continued to stay. It piqued my curiosity, and I finally messaged them, and they told me the bike had so few miles on it because they hadn't ridden it since about 2005. But I also knew in my head that the bike had to be in pretty rough condition. But nevertheless, for that bike being $1,200, I rushed over there as soon as I could, but it took about an hour to get down there. We arrived at a very suburban neighborhood, something I'm definitely not used to. We found the house because the Magna was sitting outside, along with a large old man sitting in a chair. And when we pulled up, his wife and I'm assuming their son ended up coming out as well. So I started looking at the bike, and it had some rust I wasn't too surprised about, but everything that was non-metal was completely dry rotted, and the tank I could tell was full of varnish and rust. But he did let me jump the bike to see if it still turned over, and it did. I also didn't bother haggling the price at all because I wanted it so bad. So while I was signing the title over, I finally decided to ask why the bike had so few miles on it. Turns out, when he got off of service back in 2001, he went out and bought a brand new Magna, this one. But it was a bit too fast for him, and it kind of scared him, so he didn't ride it very much and stopped riding it when he got it to about 1,200 miles. But when 2005 hit for him, he had to stop riding because he had suffered a really bad stroke, which left the right side of his body paralyzed. But instead of selling it, he decided he was going to let his son have it whenever he returned back from service. But he didn't return from service until about 2012. 7 years later. And by that time, the bike had sat so long that it needed major work to get running again. So in 2018 or 2019, I guess they finally decided to let the bike go. I didn't even bother haggling the price because I wanted the bike so badly, and all they wanted back from me was a video of the bike running again. And about 3 months after I'd ripped a bike from a stroked veteran and his family, and ordering an insane amount of parts, cleaning all the varnish and rust out of the tank, and fighting with the DMV about why there was a second signature on the title, his son, I was able to get the bike to turn over for the first time on its own power, and I cannot express the joy I felt getting the bike I never thought I'd be able to get running for the first time on my own. But I was actually kind of planning on selling it since it was a project bike, and as you could tell, that never happened. I've kind of killed the value on it, but I also don't really care because I wanted this bike to be mine. So here we are a few years later, and I still have zero interest on selling this bike and lots of plans for it. Alright, now back to the rest of the video. Now that the oil change is done, I'm basically gonna bullshit about whatever I feel like for the rest of this video. Which, first off, fuck Elden Ring. That is the most infuriating game I've been playing for the past couple months, and I still can't stop playing. Oop, overfilled. It's the first From Software game I played, and people said it's not a great start, but I finally wanted a game to play. That's what I bought, and it's just giving me a headache. It's something about that game. Every time you actually accomplish something in that game, it's the most satisfying thing ever. And no matter how much I die in that game, giving it's probably at this point hundreds and hundreds of times, I can't stop playing it. Oh god, I'm getting a filter. I'm done with that. I've spilt $30 worth of oil at this point. Ooh, dusty. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, surprise, here's the seat. Also another surprise, it's not actually on there yet, it's not welded. But that means I have another surprise for y'all later. I've been very busy this week grinding it out at work, trying to be able to afford some things I need, including an actual computer to actually edit these videos, because I'm giving myself a major headache just trying to do this off my phone alone. Yes, I've been doing all of YouTube off of my phone, but judging by the quality, you're not very surprised, are you? Is this fill yet? Should have measured something. Look at all that oil just dripping right off the exhaust, off the other important bits probably. Oil makes things really shine, doesn't it? This bike is gonna catch on fire. I guess I'll give it a wash real quick too, after I'm done with this. One clean bike later. Or, kinda clean anyways. You know what, I'm really debating on if I should go ahead and cut these off while I just, cleaned it. I don't know. There you got it. Point and no return. Brackets are off. Let's see what the seat looks like. See that? That just looks awesome. Now, I do have to shave these down now. Probably use some of my soon-to-be welding skills to cover those holes up. Because there it is! I finally got one. Because I do want this to be my bike and my own work. I mean, I could pay someone to do it, but that's not any fun to me, and that's not any fun for y'all to watch. Not just an end product. It is finally slowly coming together. So much for an oil change, I guess. Little oil spot, that's not a problem. And only a couple of oil leak spots, so that's not too bad. I'd say this is a successful video. I'll see y'all later, guys. Peace, everyone. Stay grim.